Hi everyone, my name is Karthik Dusi, and I am a junior studying industrial engineering and data science at RPI. Along with Professor Thilanka Munasinghe of RPI, we have written a short research idea paper on clean water and how the AI community can contribute to accessing water sources in developing countries. I'd like to thank AIII for this opportunity to write the paper and present it today at the symposium. So, introduction to the problem. Clean water is a prevalent issue around the world, plaguing many countries, and it's the world's largest health concern, according to the World Health Organization. And from the worldwildlife.org, some statistics reported are that over 1.1 billion people in the world lack access to a general water source. 2.7 billion people suffer from water scarcity at least once a month, and 2.4 billion people lack adequately clean water. Three main reasons are cited as to why water should be a human right. One is that ensuring access to clean water will significantly reduce the number of people affected by diseases. Two, the privatization of water does not ensure everyone has equal access. Three, the world's resources are being exploited to a point where current water supply quality is threatened and must be improved upon. So some factors at play affecting access to clean water sources are mostly socioeconomic across the world. One example being that those in rural areas um, where they drink contaminated water, they are more likely to suffer from diarrheal illnesses, enteropathy, and other serious diseases. And other factors like infrastructure, government effectiveness, and corruption are also cited by experts as influential in determining who has access to clean water sources. And for example, at least a third of the population in a South African study of a rural community perceived their water quality as unsafe and felt they could get sick from it. And the system in that particular community that was used to supply water to the community did not test positive for containing contaminants, but the system does not reach all the residents in the community. So some residents must resort to other unsanitary methods to receive their water, which is not ideal and plays into the factors of infrastructure affecting people's access to clean water sources. So the data set we used in this um, project was provided by the UN and the World Health Organization. This data set has a percentage of a population using improved water sources for 192 countries and further divides those percentages into whether they live in rural or urban areas. The rural areas are defined as areas not part of major metropolitan areas, which are defined by population density and distance from the metropolitan city, and urban data reflects data collected in areas part of major metropolitan areas. There is historical data ranging from 1990 up to 2012 for these countries, giving ample data to explore and analyze, and other attributes are also collected per country, such as GDP and population, tying into the percentage data. So, exploratory data analysis that we did, first we removed a lot of the null values and outliers in the data set, and we constructed some preliminary charts like histograms and correlation matrices to better understand the variable distribution and how the variables interact with each other. One idea we had for the future was instead of merely deleting the outliers here, for the future, since there are countries with lower percentages of people having access to improved water sources, a new data frame could be made to contain only outliers, and then we could compare box plots and other charts for the outlier data frame to the original data frame, which would be pretty interesting to look at. So in this chart, we can see a histogram of percentage of population, total population with access to clean water. So we see this is a normal distribution skewed to the right, with lots of countries having greater than 92% of population with access to clean water. This is probably because a lot of the countries that were surveyed were not developing countries and had good water in the urban areas, which skews the data of the total population. And the outliers towards 40% and 50% would be interesting to look at in the outlier data frame as mentioned before. Um, this correlation matrix here looks at percentage of total population with access to clean water and relating that to GDP and population. So here we see that there's a moderately level amount of correlation between GDP and percentage of total population with access to clean water, with a correlation of 0.48. So that implies that, after removing outliers, maybe we could see a stronger correlation there and see if there's a relationship worth analyzing further. But this also raises an interesting point that other socioeconomic factors could also be influential, like infrastructure, corruption, and effectiveness. And that is also brought into this data set by combining those indicators provided by the World Bank, measuring government effectiveness, overall infrastructure, and the corruption perception index. So this initial data set that we got from the World Health Organization ranged from 1990 to 2012, but after combining with the World Bank dataset, we decided to conduct analysis only on the year 2012 for our preliminary research purposes. So in this correlation matrix, there's a lot of variables here, but to break it down, we have percentage of total population with access to clean water, percentage of urban population, percentage of rural population, GDP per capita, per country, population of the country, corruption perception index by the public of their government in the country, government effectiveness, and infrastructure rating of the country. So in figure 6, we can see that a strong blue color means a higher correlation between the two variables. And we see a medium to strong correlation between corruption perception index and percent of the rural population with index. So the higher the corruption perception index, we see that there is a lower percentage of rural population with access to clean water, which makes sense commonly and is interesting to analyze further. This can also be perceived as certain rural populations in certain countries just not being able to have access to this water because of lack of infrastructure, and maybe there's other factors at play there as well. But um, there's a lot of interesting relationships here that could be investigated further and um, pulled together into a larger data set that could make sense. So how the AI community can help is by building a model to predict what clean water sources will deplete given trends in socioeconomic and if there are any other relevant factors. And that would be very useful as several scholars, um, as said in worldwildlife.org, assert that by 2025, two-thirds of the world's population will face water shortage. And the modeling could be aided by using machines and water filters that continuously check and report whether the water that is passing through their system is safe to drink or not. And this data collection feature could be very useful for data scientists to use in narrowing down where water contamination is happening and what sort of factors are very important to investigate. Um, Organizations such as the World Bank and the UN should emphasize the importance of regular and thorough data collection from their member countries, since that is the most important, most prevalent obstacle. given that there's a lack of data for specific countries in certain historical periods. Um, that's where most of the emphasis needs to be done so that we can leverage historical data to predict the future. And as upstanding citizens of the world and with new technologies available to us, AI community must push themselves forward, develop and come up with tools that can be used in directing relief efforts in the right places where access to clean water is a problem. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope this was a uh, good introduction to the problem we face in clean water and what sort of data sets we can use to help solve this problem. And any questions?